Welcome back. So in the last video we started looking at how you can take inputs from your users, and we just used concatenation to combine the input we took from the users with some text to display some information to the screen, and which we can see so far. We want to take it just a step further. Now we want to actually take input from your users and perform some arithmetic, which is basically some mathematical operations. We're not going to be doing something so different from what we did before, just with some extra spice. First off, let me get rid of my comments up here, and you know what, let me just get rid of everything. Okay, so we've seen how we can get inputs from our users, and how do we do that? We use the prompt function. Okay, like I said, one of the many ways, and I'm using a customized version of the prompt so that we can also see the question on our screen. Okay, once again, if you haven't downloaded the zip file, please do that. It contains the index.html file and the script.js file that we're editing with the custom code in the index.html, so you need it. So just download it. I am also adding the link to the description of this video. Now once you get that, open the index.html file in your browser and open the script.js file in an editor. So let's go on. So with the prompt function, we can actually ask for users inputs by providing a string which asks a question. For example, how old are you? Save that. If I refresh, we should see that prompt asking how old are you, and I can provide 90 or whatever value, and yeah, sure enough, we can see that the question that was asked and the input that was provided. So, but how about we performing some mathematics? So remember, since this can return a value, we can store the result in a variable, right? So I want to just ask for two different numbers and add those numbers together, since we've done addition before. So let's start. Let's ask for, just say, enter num1, which is basically enter, let's just use plain English, enter first number. All right, and secondly, let's prompt to enter the second number. But first, let's store this in a variable. So variable, let's call it num1 equals to prompt to enter first number, and create another variable num2, which is equals to prompt to enter second number. Okay, so basically we get our prompt to enter a first number, we store it in num1, get a second number, store it in num2, and since we have the first number and the second number, I just want to do a document dot write line and use addition to add num1 and num2. Okay, so if I save this and I refresh the browser, okay, so enter first number 23, enter second number 56, and if I click OK, enter first number is 23, second number is 56, but we should be getting 79, but I'm saying 2356. So something is wrong here, right? 23, 56. Oh wait, it's just combining those two numbers together rather than adding them together, and we've seen this somewhere. We just saw it in the last video. That's concatenation. So rather than adding the numbers together, it's concatenating them together. Do you know why? Well, it's because they are actually not numbers. They are basically strings. If I should just write this plainly, when we do num1 plus num2, we're actually not adding two numbers, but rather it's saying this 23 in quotes and 56 in quotes, because prompt always gives us strings and it doesn't give us numbers, right? we only get strings from prompt. So when you are working with strings and there's this plus sign, it is no longer addition, it becomes concatenation. And so concatenation just combines these two into one, and that is why we see 2, 3, 5, 6. So how do we fix this? Luckily, we can actually combine strings of numbers into actual numbers, and it's very easy to do that, but we just need to call another function. So what do? Before we add these numbers together, I want to convert this to a number, and well, I can still store it back into the variable since JavaScript allows us to change the types of a variable. Okay, so this is how we'll do it. I'll create a new variable, var. I'll call it the int num1. Alright, so just say that the integer num1. Remember, you can name a variable anything provided you follow the rules. This is just what I decide to call mine. So the int num1 equals to, there is a method called parseInt. Now what that does is it takes a string and converts it to the right integer value. So if you have, for instance, this string 2, 3, 5, 6, it will convert it from being a string to actually just being a number 2, 3, 5, 6. So I want to do the same thing here and call the parseInt function, okay, and put in my num1, that is a string. So what does this do? This takes something like, for instance, let me just use an e.g. the string 34 will become the number 34, okay, and we'll store that in int num1. We'll do the same thing for the second number, var int num2 equals to parseInt. We get our second variable num2, and it just does the same thing but for the second number. So we get the input from the user, get the second input from the user. Since those are strings and we want to perform addition, we convert them to become real numbers, because if they are not numbers, it will concatenate them rather than adding them together. One more thing, we need to use our converted numbers, okay, int num1 plus int num2. Okay, get rid of that and save. So let's see what happens now. Refresh. What is the first number? We can use the same example, 23, enter second number, 56, enter, and now we get 79. No longer, well, 2, 3, 5, 6. Why? Because we are no longer working with strings now, we are now working with numbers. And since we are working with numbers, this no longer does concatenation, which is combining two strings together, but rather it does addition, where it adds one number to the other number and we get an output. So this is how you can take user inputs as strings, convert it to become a number, and then perform arithmetic operations using the user inputs. I would love you to play around with this, right? Just follow this example, prompt for the user to provide you for some specific value, take that value, write some arithmetic with it, convert it to a number, and see if you can just play around with the other operators we looked at earlier, do multiplication, some division. You learn by playing around, programming, trying things out, and see what you can come across.